In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Indian Air Force Touch the Sky with Glory. The participants are retired Air Marshal Anil Chopra, defense expert, and Dinakar Peri, journalist.
Today is the 90th Air Force Day, and for the first time, the Air Force Day parade was held in Chandigarh instead of the National Capital Region, as we have always been used to. And this is going to be a trend henceforth, as the Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary had said in his remarks in the morning. So on this note, to discuss where the Air Force stands, Air Force has come a long way in these 90 years, and in the last few years has taken a transformative leap in terms of technology, in terms of force, modernization, on various fronts. So just to quickly go through the various facets and where the Air Force stands today going forward. We have eminent expert and well-known personality with us, Air Marshal Anil Chopra, retired Director General of the Center for Air Power Studies. Welcome, sir, to this show.
Thank you.
Sir, to begin with, the first question, as just mentioned, this is the 90th anniversary of the Indian Air Force. A lot has happened, a lot has changed. And in a way, it's also a threshold for many more changes to come, as we have been following, seeing a lot of changes in terms of the focus on Indianization, new inductions, the Agniveers coming in, technology infusion, challenges globally. So can you just encapsulate where are we and what is it going forward for the Indian Air Force?
The first time we are having a parade which is outside Delhi. Also for the first time we have two separate events. One was the main parade. And normally in the last few years, the Raksha Mantris have not been attending the Air Force Day parade. But this time the Raksha Mantri, the Governor, the Chief Minister of Haryana and other dignitaries were also present. Also there was a second event that was at Sukna Lake, and here the President of India was present. So it is a unique thing, first, that the event has been moved out of Delhi, which in a way is important. All the Army, Navy, Air Force Day and other major events of the country are being moved out. That is Prime Minister Modi's intention, is to move closer away from Delhi, the center of power, take it more closer to the people, the masses, so that they can get to. And idea is also to enthuse the young people. Recently we have introduced the Agniveer, Agnipath schemes, and this is surely going to make an impact on the general public, and more people would want to join. And a huge thrust currently being done by the government of India for indigenization. You all know that in Ukraine war we have seen the lessons are that the wars are not short and swift. There is a need for weapons stocking. There are logistic chains issues, and therefore every country is now realizing that ultimately you must have Atmanirbharta, you must have indigenization. Make in India is the thrust. And I'm very happy to say that on most grounds, as far as aviation is concerned, whether they are fighter aircraft, helicopters, missiles, on all areas, our defense production ecosystem is getting into place, and we are building in large numbers. 68% of the capital budget of the country's defense budget is actually going into the Indian industry.
So on that note, from taking forward from one of your points you made, again, in today's speech by the Air Force Chief, he made a point that the government has sanctioned the creation of a new weapon system branch for the officers of the force, which will kind of bring in all the weapons operators under one roof. And he also made a remark that it will save about 3,400 crores due to the reduced expenditure on flying training. What does it mean for the force, and how is it going to actually bring in more efficiency and more integration within the Air Force?
Weapon systems are the most important thing for operations. Today, what the Air Chief has announced is the new weapon system branch has been sanctioned. This is the first time, I think, in 4-5 decades, a new branch is being started with the Air Force. It's going to comprise of 4 people. 4 types of officers and personnel. First is the air missile systems. Second is surface missile systems, that means air defense missiles, etc. Then UAVs or remotely piloted aircraft. So all these people, there's a large number of drone and UAV squadrons now in the Air Force. And the 4th category is the weapon systems operators. Now these are the people who sit in twin cockpits, like in Su-30, Rafale, the second seat. They are flying, they're getting all the benefits of a flyer, and they are the ones who are operating the weapon systems. They are the ones who are looking at laser firing. They are looking at missile firing. They are looking at weapon aiming. So there are lots of activities these people are doing. And if you see the total number of people who comprise these 4 branches, it will be close to 5,000-7,000, out of which close to 1,000 officers. So that is the kind of size of this branch going to be. And as the Air Chief said, that once we start specializing and putting the right people in the right branch, you will find there will be long-term savings, and we would have aligned the professional aspects and technical aspects, in a coordinated way.
Sir, on that note again, another point made by the chief was about the Agniveers, the Agnipath scheme and the induction of the Agniveers, which the first batch is going to join the Indian Air Force for training in this December, in the 2 months from now. So in fact, one point he said he called it a challenge for all of us, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to harness the potential of the youth and service of the nation. So how do you see, for the Air Force being a tech-intensive force, what are going to be the challenges in assimilating the Agniveers and kind of exploiting them the right way possible?
Change is the only constant. It is important that we must change with times. Technologies have come in. Young people are so much more smarter. So the young people are very sharp. We're going to pick them up. Young, it's a fallacy. These old timers, some of the old veterans continue to get a feeling that it takes 4 years to train. It doesn't take that much time. There is something called just-in-time training. We will just train them in the immediately important things which the Air Chief mentioned. They will join us first time in December. They will physically join the armed forces, the Air Force. They will join in June, July next year. 6 months of training. They will be given certain amount of military training, which of course is very important, etc. But they will be taught the things that they will start operating with immediately. Mind you, the boys and girls who are going to come, they will be fit enough to operate, go to the aircraft, touch the aircraft, servicing of the aircraft. And I believe strongly that the youth of this country are phenomenal and they're going to fit in well.
Sir, on the modernization or the evolution part, there was a new camouflage which was unveiled today for the Indian Air Force with the combat uniform. So it's a digital camouflage, as the Air Force called it. So what is the need for it and necessity for bringing in a new camouflage? Army has also done the same thing.
Yes, the Army has done it, Navy has done, Air Force, all three services are doing. They require a different camouflage pattern, a digital camouflage, the whole world. Militaries of all the major powers have done the similar exercise. See, clothing also evolving. I remember 12 years back when the Indian Air Force came out with the new overall. These are fire-resistant materials. They are different materials. Their longevity, their life of the overalls were much larger. Similarly, when we have chosen the new combat dress, which is digital camouflage, one is the level of camouflage goes up, the quality of material is much better, and ultimately we have chosen, each service has chosen a slightly different color. Of course, the Army has chosen mostly either a desert camouflage or the forest camouflage, but Indian Air Force, if you see, our aircraft are mostly grey colored and they are matte finished. So we find that this is going to be a good camouflage uniform. Our case, only people who cross the border are the pilots and the air crew. So they, of course, have got a different overalls which they'll wear, but the rest of the crew do not cross the border, but they of course take direct part in operations. And this camouflage is going to work well within typical airbase colors. Airbases have got grey tarmacs, grey runways, grey colored buildings. So in that, camouflage scheme is going to look good, and I think that's a very positive change.
So while modernization has been taking place, a lot of force multiplier have been inducted. The situation of the fighter squadron strength has been a matter of concern. When we stand today at 31 squadrons against sanctioned strength of 42 squadrons, and we have a few lineups, LCA and other things lined up, but they're still some time away. So how is that going to be balancing that with, say, force multipliers and other things, doctrinal aspects? How is that going to be challenged, or how is the Air Force going to tackle that issue in the next 1 decade before the numbers go up?
Dinakar, that is an issue. I think it's been very well flagged. The security establishment of the country, right up to the top, everybody is aware and conscious of that. We are down to 31 squadron. We must get to 42. The service chiefs are saying we are not going to fight a 2-front war. We could actually fight a 3-front war, because the eastern side and north, if you have to have any conflict with China, it's 2 fronts. We cannot move forces from one side to the other, and therefore getting back to 42 squadrons is very important. How do we get to 42 squadrons? Chief briefly mentioned during his press conference. First he said is that we must quickly send out the request for proposal for the 6 squadrons that we have to buy from outside, and they will be built in India. Even if you send the request for proposal today, it could take 5 to 6 years. So we have to fast track that proposal. The second thing that we have to do is that the LCA production has to go up. But before the production goes up, the Mark 1A, the Mark 2, their design and development must be hastened. Now Mark 1A, the metal cutting is already started, and we hope that the Mark 1A will be available much faster. But Mark 2, which is the design is more or less frozen, and the AMCA, for which the pre-design phase is going on right now, these aircraft have to be pushed. The fourth thing that you need to do is try and improve the subsibilities of the existing aircraft fleets. Because if you have around 60 to 65% subsibility, and if I improve subsibility by just 5%, I actually add 2 more squadrons to the Air Force. So these are some of our suggestions, but all these suggestions that I'm making as an analyst sitting outside are very well known, and within the government and the Air Force, such talk is going on. The flight refueling aircraft, we have got too few, just 6 of them. At any given time, maybe 4 or 5 will be serviceable. For a continental size country like India, I think you require 10 or 15 of them. Similarly, the AWAC aircraft, we have got just 5 of them, 3 larger ones, 2 smaller ones. At any given time, one not maybe unserviceable or down for some maintenance activities. For a country of our size, we require at least 15 AWACS class of aircraft. There is already a proposal. DRDO is going to build A320 based aircraft, both FRA and AWACS. These aircraft have been taken for Air India, but it will take time. It could take 8 to 10 years. And the government is looking at its possibility to take on lease from some country some of these AWACS or FRA. But we are very well off in transports. We are very well off in helicopters. We are well off in missiles. We are well off in many other areas. So I think the nation be assured that the Air Force is operationally in good hands.
So the other side of the thing is technology infusion. Fighter squadrons, that's one thing. It's technology infusion, and there's a lot of thirst in the last few years on that front. Say, right from more UAVs, swarm drones, and disruptive tech, AI and other disruptive tech coming in, and space-based systems and assets, which again has been referred to by the Air Chief on multiple occasions, including today. So how is that kind of shaping up, and how do you see that evolving in the near term? Because again, there is a lot of push from that in the domestic industry.
So I must tell you the Air Chief has been repeatedly speaking in various forums, and I have been listening to him very attentively. Future is network centric. The war is going to be fought on networks, and networks means high speed information flow, decision making. So network centric warfare involves securing your own networks and be able to threaten an adversary networks. And therefore, what you get is cyber warfare. So what did the country do? They set up a cyber agency, defense cyber agency. Ultimately, one day it might become a cyber command. So this is one area, network-centric and cyber. Then, as you mentioned, AI. Just yesterday, there was a huge seminar in Vigyan Bhavan where I was one of the speakers on AI in defense. So AI is coming in a big way. It's going to give split-second decision-making. AI is going to make automation possible. The drones, the UAVs, all of them require AI. And drones and UAVs, as you mentioned, we have had large events that were being attended by the Prime Minister himself. The Drone Federation of India has become very active. There are more than 100 startups in drones today. So drones has got a lot of action. We have seen in Ukraine, drones have done a great amount of work. Space is another area. Space, we are very competent. We are among the 6 nations in the world which can do everything in space, including we have done the ASAT test. So we have the capabilities, but what needs to go up is number of launches has to go up. We have had only 3 space launches this year. The Chinese are going to do 60 launches in this year. So my contention is the numbers have to go up. We need more satellites, so the redundancy is there in the space. We have revisit times to the same spot for ISR much faster. And my last point on technology is electronic warfare and information warfare. Everything becoming electronic on aircraft, the radars, the missile head, the various other systems on board being electronic. The electronic warfare capability has to be there. The Chinese have got a dedicated electronic warfare aircraft. We do not have, but on all our aeroplanes, we have electronic warfare equipment, whether it's for defensive or for offensive. So this is one area perhaps the country needs to invest more in terms of design and development within the country.
So we now have the second CDS has taken charge, and Air Force Chief again had made a statement that there's certain reservations. There are 4 theatre commands, but there are certain reservations on the doctrinal aspect of the force. So what would be the midway to go forward on this?
We have to look at the theatres commands with an open mind. Indian Air Force's reservations are very, very clearly understood. Jointness is very important. We want jointness, but the state of most of Indian Air Force's assets are strategic. They are multi-role. They have to be used for offensive. They have to be used for defense. We can switch roles. Morning sortie can be same aircraft for offensive. The evening sortie can be for defensive. So there are reservations. The people who take decision, I think everybody needs to sit down together and coolly maybe take an incremental approach. Let's make small steps instead of going whole hog and then messing up the operational capability of all the services. Surely jointness is required. There is need for integration, but it has to be done by taking everybody on board, which the Air Chief mentioned.
Thank you very much, Air Marshal Chopra.
Thank you.
You are listening to a discussion on Indian Air Force, Touch the Sky with Glory. The participants were retired Air Marshal Anil Chopra, defense expert, and Deena Karperi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.